We're recording.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Have You Met Alex, our CINC AI experiences conversation. I am Kayla Priest. I'm on the CINC Live team, and I'm really happy to facilitate today's conversation along with my wonderful co-host, Mike Davis. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Kayla. Thank you for having me here as your co-host. So happy to be here. I'm also a CINC certified trainer and a product manager for the AI. So kind of coordinating all of our teams from product to our CINC community team that handles the scripting to collecting all that good client feedback, and here hosting and meeting with clients, your actual users.
Yeah, we're really excited to have our guests, Pat and Eric, with us today. Pat, will you say hello to everyone watching and give us a little info on you and your team?
Yeah, you bet, Kayla. Thanks for having us. Pat Garrity, we have a small real estate team, 6 licensed agents, including Eric, our licensed inside sales associate, and 2 admins. We have a market of about 300,000 people that we try and service on a continuous basis, and we're located in central Alberta. For those of you that have no idea where that is, we're directly north of Montana. And yeah, we're happy to be here, and hopefully you can help.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. Eric, tell us a little bit about your role as that inside sales associate.
Gee, I didn't know we were directly above Montana. Is that right?
You learned something today too.
No.
Hi, Kayla and Mike. Nice to see you again. Yeah, I've been the inside sales agent for Trilliant well, I just celebrated my 10th anniversary in December.
Awesome.
And
Happy anniversary.
thank you. That's in the history of ISAs. That's a pretty long run.
For sure.
But Pat and I and the whole team have had a lot of success, and we we're celebrating 10 years of CINC coming up, and the platform has been really good for us. And when you guys implemented the AI with Alex, whoever she is, it's made my job a lot more efficient and a lot easier in some ways. I really like the AI system.
Awesome. Well, you guys are setting us up perfectly for the questions that we want to ask, because this is all about AI. And I would love to hear from both of your perspectives. Eric, you say it's made your job a lot easier in a lot of ways. Kind of talk to us about just the implementation process. How did you decide to even go forward with doing, with adding AI onto your account? And did you find it easy to kind of find your groove and working with it, or what was that experience like?
Pat, why don't you answer why we did it, why we decided to do it?
Well, number one, I'm going to try anything. You know, we've tried every little add-on that CINC's had in the last 10 years, whether it's, video call or, video messaging or, and this is one that we're really intrigued just because of the amount of communicating it can do on a continuous basis, kind of behind closed doors when we're not looking, when the consumer has their hand up and is reacting in a way in our system that needs to be conversed with. And, there's only one Eric. There's only one of me. And, if we miss something, that could be detrimental to our bottom line. So just looking for that opportunity to be, ongoing communication and there for the consumer when they need it.
Awesome.
Yeah. And, my particular job is being an ISA is a very, very focused job, unlike the OSAs that are out showing houses and listing houses and doing contracts and all that stuff. I'm sitting in my office. Unfortunately, it's my home office for the time being, with my phone and computer and following up on all of our leads. But I work regular hours. I work 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. I do work weekends if we have particular showing requests or property inquiries from CINC. But the AI system has allowed me to be much more efficient when Alex starts a conversation, well, let me back up a bit. We've had and we still have drip programs that we use that are supposed to engage people. That's the whole idea. But the one we are using now, once the client responds to a drip, it shuts off, and that's it. And then I have to follow up, whether it's, if that was on a Friday night and I don't get to them till Monday morning, well, that's kind of a long time.
For sure.
Alex continues the conversation with some pretty interesting questions, and not just the what questions, though some why questions too, which is pretty astounding for artificial intelligence to me. So I'm able to often not start from scratch with these leads, and it's not just the leads that are now leads or leads coming up in the next three to 6 months. You know, they will say, oh no, I was looking for my Aunt Muriel. You know, I'm not buying a house, I love my house. That saves me a lot of time too. And you know, it's just I think my efficiency has improved a lot just from having AI.
Awesome. So before I pitch it over to Mike, here's a question that I love to ask. I know right now it can be kind of tough to track, you know, the results, but are there any conversations that stand out in your mind, a particular lead that you maybe were able to have a great conversation with because the AI kind of set you up with that information? Just like one person that maybe stands out, jumps to mind?
Uh, there was actually one today that I'd never had before, and I didn't write down the conversation, but it was they're not, you know, they're not a now buyer. They're probably maybe a year out or something.
Mhm.
And Alex had this fairly long conversation, and when he got to the point where they said, well, we you know, we can't buy now, we're not ready, but you know, you seem like a really nice guy. and you know, and a very caring person, and when we are ready to go, I think we'll use you. And
Oh, I love that.
I never had one like that before, but that stands out for sure.
That's so funny. I love that. You know, sometimes get a lot where people, well, what if someone asks if it's a robot? You know, and it's like some people truly can't tell, and that's proof right there. I love that.
Yeah, and I get that occasionally. Like, am I talking
Mhm.
to you
Yeah.
know, a bot? But the beauty of it is I can jump in there and say, no, I'm a real person. What do you think?
Yeah, just take it over.
Right, exactly.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, that is a great conversation. I think that might be one of the best I've heard with it tricking someone into thinking that it's human. I mean, at that point, you might as well throw a photo on your website and just have Alex up there.
You think the real estate board would go for that, Pat?
Yeah, let's not go there.
Oh,
But
maybe not. We'll cross that out of the recording. I did not give that advice. Um, so I know that you both said that you love trying new things. You've tried every new product with us. With something as advanced as AI, that it takes a lot of that control away from you and your teams. Did you have any reservations going into trying this type of feature versus like that video messaging where you're in full control?
yeah, that's a good question, Mike. I think, you know, for those that don't know, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe AI is triggered off behavioral messaging and the interaction with that. So we wanted to make sure that, you know, my behavioral messaging, for example, I only have certain things turned on, you know, whereas Eric has more things turned on. So I'm more careful with my leads that I have in my pipeline than Eric is with his. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So we kind of baby stepped into it. And once we got more comfortable with the conversations that were happening, we kind of unleashed it, you know, to a larger degree to more people and on a wider scale. Would that be a fair assessment, Eric?
Yeah, absolutely. Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. That's what's awesome about the AI feature and the way that it's built is we broke that up to give you the ability to control what behaviors you want engagement on, what agents actually want to utilize that feature, and whether you want your new leads worked as well as just the ones by behavioral messaging. So you have a lot of control there as far as how you're able to get Alex to engage. And that's awesome that you kind of use that control in baby stepping your way into unleashing Alex in full.
It wasn't until we actually saw some of these conversations that we started to, and I don't know if trust is the right word, but we started to maybe believe a little bit more that something like this was possible. And I think really at the end of the day, we're probably scratching the surface a little bit on it. We don't use it for new leads. We just don't. We use a different drip program as well as just the old school manual follow up. But it's our longer term sort of kind of a pipeline lead that, once they do that activity where they tell us something's really cool is going to happen, and that's when AI kicks in and lets Eric know what's going on. And there's been a few, where they say, there was a, I'm just getting to, there's circumstances where it does not exactly speak properly at the right time, but you know what, it's sometimes we don't either, sometimes we say the wrong thing. So, but that's when you kind of stick your neck out and maybe you are using a bot, but really at the end of the, it's a high percentage of conversations that we're having. I think Eric go really good, and leave it at a spot where we can take over and maybe change their search properly, or, maybe change the time frame, put them in the right pipeline so that we are making sure that they're getting taken care of. But like I said, it makes Eric way more efficient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a really good point that you brought up too, that, agents don't always say the right thing, which is true. We're human, we make mistakes, and the AI, Alex, is trying to emulate a human. So, occasionally it'll trip up. But one thing that was really interesting to me, not to go too much on a side note, is that when we started working with AI, is that it gets smarter over time. So the more conversations you allow Alex to have, the smarter Alex gets and the better Alex gets. So, the longer it runs, then the better the conversations are going to get. And AI doesn't take no for an answer. A lot of times with agents, they get that first no and they might say, okay, well, call me, if something changes. But the AI digs a little deeper. Have you noticed that it is maybe able to uncover some of the motivations that maybe people weren't coming out and saying right away on phone calls?
Absolutely. And I was on the webinar yesterday. I think Pat couldn't make it, but Alvaro said that you guys were considering this for literally years, but he was not comfortable with the technology that was out there. And but you're right about the conversations getting smarter, and the fact that you guys have weekly meetings specifically to vet these scripts and change this and change that, add this, subtract that. Yeah, Alex is definitely getting smarter. And the beauty of it is it's realtors that are doing the scripts. So, they know what to expect and what may be coming, what may not be coming. That's why it's been so good for us. The issue of I know a few people were asking about the wrong answers. Boy, that one yesterday about the guy whose wife was having an affair with her cousin.
Yeah.
And Alex said, "Hey, sounds great." I know you guys have worked that out. But
yeah,
I haven't had any real issues with an answer that doesn't quite fit. The client will usually say, well, I already mentioned to you that I need 3 bedrooms instead of 4, or something like that. And then Alex seems to maybe change the paradigm a bit and focus back in on the conversation. So I haven't really seen a lot of pushback or problems Alex, making the complete wrong answer. That's been my experience.
That's great to hear. Like, I mean, every conversation that Alex gets to have, like Cayla said, gets smarter, and you're seeing that time over time. With your experience of seeing those good conversations, it does misstep here and there, but eventually overcomes those and keeps that conversation alive. So Cayla, I have two questions to wrap up, and one of them is one of my favorite to get to ask our guests here. But before we do you have any questions?
No, honestly, I was so shocked before when you guys, said that you'd been with us for 10 years. And so the only point I want to make is that like you've been around to see the good, the bad, the ugly with CINC. And so it's just so cool to hear, how you guys just are continuing to innovate like right along with us. And I just think that that's a real testament to like the relationship, and that I've just enjoyed getting to talk to you guys. So thank you for everything, and I will hand it back over to Mike.
Awesome. Well, since you have taken time out of your day to come do this impromptu kind of interview here, we definitely want to get kind of what would be your one wish list item that you could bring to Alex, whether it's a feature, a new type of script, what's that wish list item that we can add to our roadmap maybe?
I think
I'm
Pat
gonna
and
go
I
first.
probably have
I'm
the
gonna go
same
first
answer.
here. Yeah, I'm gonna go first here, Eric, and then I'm gonna let you from a in the trenches standpoint. I need to know, and I remember I missed the webinar yesterday, but I need to know daily tracking of how many conversations we're having. I don't need to know the entire conversation, but I needed to come out like in the lead summary or some type of a summary where we can keep track of how many conversations we're having a day. And so if we do miss that, we can come back and label so that we can properly track, should it turn into business, so I can track the ROI on it. It's not much money a month, but to gauge the ROI that comes back. So that's from my standpoint. Eric, how about from your standpoint?
I would agree with you, Pat, that the tracking part I think would be really helpful, because you have to have the metrics to know if it's, well, like Pat said, it's not that expensive, but still you want to know if it's worth it. From the ISA standpoint, from my personal standpoint, I don't really have any suggestions, because I'm seeing the improvements, and I don't really have anything at the moment that I could add.
Well,
we didn't pay him to say that either, by the way.
Yeah, this is not a paid sponsorship.
Mike, can I ask you one question?
Absolutely.
In the webinar yesterday, you mentioned that there is coming up, maybe even next week, some sort of summary for Alex's conversation. Would that help Pat in the metrics in tracking?
Yes, I was actually going to say that not all wins can be quite this quick, but we are in the process of releasing that. I'm hoping to have that out early next week. So you'll start to get an AI daily summary report, just like you do your lead summary or your dialer summaries. It's going to have a breakdown of all the conversations that you had on the last 24 hours. It's going to have the month to date, and with a list of those leads as well. So you'll have a lot of good tracking information in there. Very similar to like you do with the call summary or that lead summary. So yeah, so if you're listening to this, I can't guarantee every win will be that quick, but that one was already in the works. So glad we can meet that for you. And that leads us to our last question. Something that we like to do is ask, what advice would you have to someone who's considering adding AI? If you could give them that one piece of advice that kind of really just speaks to your experience and what they should expect in adding AI.
I think one thing is, don't be afraid to test it, right? If you don't test it, you won't know what it can do for you. And if you're worried about the amount of messaging and maybe the cost piling up, don't use it for new leads. maybe just use it to help your pipeline convert when they're a little bit further down the road. That's what we're doing. I looked at the costing of it, and based on that first tier, we're well within that first tier. And just so you know, we got 28,000 leads in our system. So if they're constantly percolating and rising to the surface via behavioral messaging, we're well within that first tier. And that's, I don't want to quote what the cost is per month, because I don't want to speak out of turn, but it's definitely worth that investment for us.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I'd say the same thing, try it. Especially the agents that like the OSAs that don't necessarily have a team or don't have an ISA. I know how busy these guys and gals are, and AI could seriously help, with the lead follow-up. I'm a full-time ISA, and it's done wonders for me. But I think about the OSAs that are on their own, that are acting as OSAs and ISAs. And I think it would be great if those folks could try it and see if it could help them like it's helped us.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for sharing your experiences. I think it's really cool to hear it from both perspectives. And I know that this will be really helpful to people who are considering starting AI, or maybe already have and are just looking to kind of take it to the next level. So we really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
Thank you guys very much.